First contact, first conflict. The bridge of the UES Sentinel hummed with quiet efficiency as Commander Maya Chen completed her inspection round. Holographic displays cast a blue glow across the faces of her crew, each focused intently on their stations. The Sentinel was humanity's flagship explorer, the culmination of Earth's tentative first steps into deep space. Maya ran her hand along the command rail, feeling the subtle vibration of the ship's quantum drive beneath her fingertips. "Status report," she said, settling into the command chair. The smooth material adjusted perfectly to her form, one of many small comforts engineered to make long-duration missions bearable. Lieutenant Decker at Tactical looked up from his console. "All systems nominal, Commander. We're maintaining position at the edge of the Arcturus Nebula. Stellar Cartography is completing their survey of the region." Maya nodded, her eyes drawn to the massive view screen that dominated the forward section of the bridge. The nebula stretched before them like a watercolor painting, swirls of purple, blue, and gold dancing against the black canvas of space. It was breathtaking, and until now, completely unknown to human science. "Beautiful, isn't it?" The voice came from Dr. Eleanor West, the Sentinel's chief cynobiologist. She had a habit of appearing silently on the bridge during significant moments. 500 years of staring at the stars, and we're still finding wonders. Maya smiled. "That's why we're out here, Doctor." The moment of appreciation was cut short by an urgent tone from the communication station. Ensign Faruqi's hands flew across his interface, his expression shifting from confusion to concern. "Commander, I'm picking up a transmission. It's not one of ours." The bridge fell silent. First contact protocols had been established decades ago, but they remained theoretical. Humanity had explored dozens of star systems without encountering other intelligent life. Until now. "Source?" Maya asked, her voice steady despite the adrenaline suddenly coursing through her veins. "Unknown, but the signal's coming from within the nebula. It's being broadcast on multiple frequencies, almost like..." Faruqi paused, adjusting his equipment, almost like a distress call. Maya stood. "Let's hear it." The bridge speakers crackled with static, then cleared. The voice that emerged was unlike anything Maya had ever heard, resonant, with harmonics that seemed to layer atop one another, creating an almost musical quality. The language was incomprehensible, but the urgency was unmistakable. "Can we translate?" Maya asked. Dr. West was already at the linguistics station, working with the ship's eye. "The syntax structure is unlike anything in our database, but the acoustic pattern suggests some universal elements. The AI is building a rudimentary translation matrix." Minutes passed, the alien voice continuing its message in an endless loop. Maya ordered a full stop and directed all sensor arrays toward the signal's origin. Finally, fragments began to resolve into comprehensible phrases. "Under attack. Civilian outposts. Request immediate assistance. Vox ships approaching. Cannot hold. Mercy for the children." Maya's decision solidified instantly. "Helm, take us in. Yellow alert." "Commander," First Officer Rivera cautioned, "protocol clearly states we should maintain distance and observe until..." "Someone's dying in there, XO." Maya cut him off. "We'll observe from a closer vantage point." The Sentinel glided forward, penetrating the colorful veil of the nebula. Sensor data began streaming in, revealing the chaos hidden within. Two distinct fleets engaged in asymmetric warfare. The smaller group, vessels of elegant organic design, was clearly on the defensive, forming a protective screen around what appeared to be civilian transport ships. The aggressors' vessels were angular and predatory, bristling with weapon emplacements. "Multiple energy discharges detected," Decker reported. "The smaller fleet is taking heavy damage. I'm also reading. Commander, there are escape pods launching from the damaged ships. The larger vessels are targeting them specifically." Maya's jaw tightened. Shields up. Weapons online. Rivera stepped closer, lowering his voice. Maya, we have no jurisdiction here. We don't know the situation, the politics, who've started this. I know someone's shooting at evacuation pods, Maya replied, her voice steel. That tells me everything I need to know about the situation. She turned to communications. Ensign, broadcast on all frequencies. Identify us and order the attacking ships to cease fire on civilian targets. The message went out. The response was immediate and unambiguous. A barrage of energy weapons directed at the Sentinel. The ship rocked under the impact. Shields holding at 87%, Decker called out. They're definitely not interested in talking. Then we'll speak their language, Maya said. Target the vessels attacking the escape pods. Precision strikes only. Disable, don't destroy. The Sentinel's advanced targeting systems locked onto the predatory ships. Phased particle beams lanced out, striking with surgical precision. Two of the attacking vessels veered off, their weapons systems suddenly offline. The remaining hostile ships are breaking off pursuit of the civilian vessels, Decker reported. They're all turning toward us. On the view screen, the angular ships reoriented like a school of predatory fish, sensing more substantial prey. Maya had expected this, drawn their attention away from the civilians, but the coordinated precision of their movement was unnerving. Hold position, Maya ordered. Let's show them we're not looking for a fight. The largest of the attacking vessels transmitted a response, a harsh guttural language that scraped across the ears. The translation matrix struggled, but eventually rendered fragments. Interference. Primitive species. Submit or be eradicated. Maya's expression hardened. Charming. Ensign, respond that we are representing Earth and human interests. We have no quarrel with them, but will not permit attacks on civilian targets. Before the message could be transmitted, the enemy fleet opened fire. Not probing shots this time, but a full-scale assault. The Sentinel shuddered under the barrage. Shields at 60% and falling. Decker shouted over the blare of warning klaxons. Their weapons technology it's incredibly advanced, Commander. Maya gripped the command rail. Evasive pattern delta. Return fire. Full defensive spread. The Sentinel banked sharply, its inertial dampeners straining to compensate. The ship's own weapons blazed in response, but the enemy vessels moved with impossible agility, avoiding many of the shots. They're using some kind of gravitic manipulation. Chief Engineer Okafor's voice came through the comm. Those maneuvers should be tearing their ships apart. One of the Sentinel's beams connected solidly with a smaller enemy craft. Instead of the expected damage, the energy seemed to ripple across the hull before dissipating. Adaptive shielding, Decker muttered. They're analyzing our weapon signatures and reconfiguring in real time. Maya's mind raced. Humanity had only recently developed functional interstellar travel. These beings were clearly far more advanced, which made their aggression all the more troubling. If this was how they treated unknown species. New contact. Faruqi called out. One of the defending ships is approaching. They're transmitting. Coordinates. Navigation data. Maya understood immediately. They're giving us an exit strategy. She shook her head. Not happening. Tactical. Analyze their weapon impacts. Find a pattern. A vulnerability. The bridge crew worked frantically as the ship continued to absorb punishment. Rivera stepped up beside Maya, his earlier caution replaced by grim determination. The civilian ships are almost clear of the combat zone, he reported. We've given them the time they needed. Maya nodded. Then we've accomplished something. Now let's make sure we're around to file the report. Mr. Decker, what have you found? Decker looked up from his station, a gleam of discovery in his eyes. Their shield modulation has a microsecond delay when they fire their main weapons. It's barely perceptible, but it's there. Can we exploit it? If we time our shots precisely when they fire. Decker's fingers flew across his console. I'm sensing our targeting systems now. The next exchange was different. As one of the larger enemy vessels discharged its forward batteries, the Sentinel's particle beams struck at exactly the right moment. The enemy shields flickered, and the beam punched through, carving a smoldering gash along the ship's flank. "Direct hit," Decker exclaimed. Maya allowed herself a tight smile. "Now they know we can hurt them. Target the next vessel using the same technique." Before they could capitalize on the discovery, the enemy fleet suddenly began pulling back, maintaining a firing pattern but clearly disengaging. "They're retreating?" Rivera asked, disbelief evident in his voice. Maya shook her head. "Tactical reassessment. They didn't expect us to penetrate their defenses." She turned to Faruqi. "Any response from the defending fleet?" "Yes, Commander. They're requesting permission to dock with us. Their flagship has sustained heavy damage, and they have wounded." Maya hesitated only briefly. "Grant permission. Medical teams to docking Bay 2. Security protocols remain in place, but I want a welcoming posture. These people just fought alongside us." As the Sentinel maneuvered to rendezvous with the alien vessel, Maya took a moment to process what had just occurred. Humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence had been baptized in fire, not the carefully orchestrated, diplomatic exchange that had been planned for decades, but a battlefield alliance formed in moments. The alien ship that approached was a thing of beauty, despite its battle damage. Where human vessels were utilitarian and angular, this craft seemed grown rather than built, smooth curves and bioluminescent patterns flowing across its surface. As it nestled against the Sentinel's docking collar, Maya could almost feel the ship itself breathing. "Commander," Dr. West said quietly, "we're about to make history in more ways than one." Maya nodded, straightening her uniform jacket. "Docking Bay 2. Let's greet our new friends." The delegation that emerged from the alien vessel stunned even Dr. West into momentary silence. The beings stood nearly 7 feet tall, with slender, graceful bodies covered in what appeared to be a fine layer of iridescent scales. Their faces were vaguely humanoid, but with large, multifaceted eyes that shifted color as they moved, and gill-like structures pulsing gently at their necks. Their leader stepped forward, placing a 6-fingered hand against its chest. The translation matrix struggled with the complex harmonics of their speech, but eventually rendered. "I am Supreme Navigator Talveth of the Thalassian Alliance. You intervened where no others would. We owe you our continued existence." Maya stepped forward, mirroring the gesture. "Commander Maya Chen of the United Earth Ship Sentinel. We responded to your distress call. I'm only sorry we couldn't arrive sooner." Talveth's multifaceted eyes shifted to a deep blue. "You faced the Vox Imperium without hesitation. Few species possess such courage, or perhaps wisdom lacks where courage abounds." "We couldn't stand by while civilians were targeted," Maya replied simply. "A sentiment the Vox do not share," Talveth said. "They believe in strength above all. Weakness, in any form, must be purged." Dr. West stepped forward. "You've encountered them before. All spacefaring races eventually face the Vox," Talveth replied, a subtle vibration in their voice that the translator couldn't quite capture. "They are ancient and relentless. They test each new species they encounter, judging their worthiness to exist in this galaxy. And if found wanting?" Maya asked, already suspecting the answer. "Extinction," Talveth said. "Our colony world, Thelia Minor, was judged thus 2 cycles ago. What you witnessed was our final evacuation attempt. The Vox returned to ensure nothing remained." Maya felt a chill run through her. Humanity had barely begun its journey among the stars, and already they had encountered a force that casually committed genocide. "You should know," Talveth continued, "that by interfering, you have drawn their attention. The Vox will now judge your species as well." First Officer Rivera stepped forward. "Are you saying they'll attack Earth?" "Perhaps not immediately," Talveth replied, "but they will come. The Vox forget nothing and forgive less. You have shown yourselves to be interesting. They will want to test your full measure before deciding your fate." Maya squared her shoulders. "Then they'll find humanity is full of surprises." Talveth's eyes shifted to a lighter shade, almost luminescent. Perhaps. We have heard whispers of your kind. A young race, newly emerged, yet advancing with unusual speed. It is why we chose to flee toward your territory, rather than deeper into the nebula. You knew of us? Dr. West asked. We observed before making contact, Talveth explained. A practice the Vox abandoned eons ago. They turned back to Maya. Commander, my people require sanctuary. We have nowhere else to go. Maya knew this decision extended far beyond her authority. Earth's first contact protocols never anticipated providing refuge to an alien species fleeing genocide. But the alternative was unthinkable. You'll have it, she said firmly. We'll escort your vessels to our nearest outpost and contact Earth. I can't promise what our government will decide long-term, but I can promise you safety in the immediate future. Talveth lowered their head in what appeared to be a gesture of profound gratitude. Then the Thalashan people are in your debt, Commander Chen. And perhaps, they looked up, eyes now shifting to a deep violet. Perhaps the Vox have finally encountered a species they cannot simply eradicate. As the delegation departed to tend to their wounded, Maya turned to her officers. Send a priority message to Earth Command. Tell them everything has changed. Rivera nodded grimly. And the Vox. Maya looked out the viewport at the retreating signatures of the enemy fleet. They'll be back. And when they come, they'll find humanity ready. What none of them could know was just how soon that reckoning would come, or how it would forever change humanity's place in the galaxy. The gathering storm. Admiral William Hayes squinted at the holographic display, his weathered face illuminated by the glowing tactical overview of the Arcturus Nebula. Around the conference table, Earth's highest-ranking military and political leaders sat in uncomfortable silence, digesting Commander Chen's report. Let me be clear, Hayes finally said, his voice gravel-rough after decades of command. You engaged an unknown alien force, intervened in a conflict we know nothing about, and have now offered sanctuary to an entire refugee fleet. Maya stood at attention, unflinching. Yes, Admiral. Based on direct observation of the Vox Imperium targeting civilian evacuation vessels, I made the determination that humanitarian intervention was necessary. Defense Secretary Oko leaned forward. Commander, while your intentions were admirable, you've potentially dragged Earth into an interstellar conflict we're not prepared for. With respect, Madam Secretary, Maya replied, we were already in this conflict. We just didn't know it yet. The Thalashans have provided extensive intelligence on the Vox Imperium, a species that systematically tests and often destroys emerging civilizations. Earth was already on their assessment list. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. UN Secretary General Quaim finally broke the silence. And you believe these Thalashans? I do, sir. Their accounts align with observable evidence, and they freely shared their technological database with us, including detailed records of Vox incursions dating back centuries. Dr. West, standing beside Maya, activated her datapad. The holographic display shifted to show anatomical renderings of both species. The Thalashans are an aquatic evolved species with technology based primarily on organic computing and resonance physics. Culturally, they're explorers and traders. The Vox, by contrast, appear to be an insectoid collective with highly regimented social structures. Their technology emphasizes weapons and defensive systems. Hayes grunted. And they're both centuries ahead of us. In some areas, yes, Maya acknowledged. But the Thalashans were surprised by several aspects of our technology, particularly our approach to quantum computing and our shield modulation techniques. We're not as outmatched as it might appear. That's hardly reassuring, Commander, Ocho said. You're suggesting we prepare for war against an adversary that casually commits genocide and possesses technology we barely understand. Maya straightened. I'm suggesting we prepare for a threat that already exists, whether we acknowledge it or not. The Vox Imperium will come to Earth eventually. I've given us advance warning and potential allies. Secretary General Quaim studied Maya thoughtfully. What do you propose, Commander? integration of Thalassian technical knowledge with our defense systems, accelerated production of our newest ship classes, and Maya hesitated, knowing her next suggestion would be controversial, a proactive stance. We locate the Vox fleet before they reach our... They learned quickly, Rivera observed, watching a Thalassian effortlessly manipulate the station's environmental controls. They've had to, Maya replied. Adaptability is survival. A soft chime from her communicator interrupted their conversation. Chen here. Commander, came the voice of Lieutenant Commander Hiroshi from the Sentinel's bridge. Long-range sensors have detected a spatial anomaly at the edge of the nebula. Signature matches Thalassian records of Vox jump technology. Maya's pulse quickened. How many ships? Just one. Scout class, according to Talveth's identification protocols. They're assessing our defenses, Maya said, more to herself than Hiroshi. Keep tracking it, but take no action unless it approaches the station. She turned to find Talveth standing behind her, the Thalassian's eyes a deep, concerned purple. You've detected them, Talveth stated. Maya nodded. A scout. How long do we have? Days, perhaps. The Vox are methodical. They will analyze your technology, your tactics from our encounter. Then they will return in force. Talveth's gill structures pulsed rapidly. We have brought this to your doorstep. You sought help from the only place you could, Maya countered. We don't blame victims for the crimes of their persecutors. Talveth's eyes shifted to a warmer hue. A compassionate philosophy. Whether it is sustainable in this galaxy remains to be seen. Maya's communicator chimed again. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Zhao requests your immediate presence for a classified briefing. 20 minutes later, Maya sat in the station's secure communication center. The quantum entangled transmission was instantaneous despite the vast distance, eliminating the light speed delays of conventional communication. Admiral Zhao's hologram appeared, her normally composed features tense. The Security Council has rejected your proposal for a preemptive strike, Zhao said without preamble. They've opted for a defensive posture and attempted diplomatic contact. Maya felt a cold knot form in her stomach. The Thalassians have tried that, Admiral. The Vox don't negotiate with species they consider inferior. I'm aware, Zhao replied, which is why I'm proceeding with an alternative plan. Officially, the Sentinel and its crew are being reassigned to escort the Thalassian refugee fleet to Earth for processing. Unofficially, she paused, glancing at something off-screen. I've authorized the deployment of the Vigilant, the Nomad, and the Defiant to rendezvous with you at Arcturus. Captain Ishida, Commander Okonkwo, and Captain Rodriguez have all volunteered. Maya blinked in surprise. A task force. Without council approval. A reconnaissance mission that may involve defensive action. Zhao corrected carefully. I have discretionary authority for limited deployments in emergency scenarios. Use it well, Commander. I won't be able to send reinforcements if things go badly. Understood, Admiral. And thank you. Zhao's expression softened slightly. The Thalassians chose to flee toward human space for a reason, Maya. They saw something in us. Something worth the risk. Prove them right. The transmission ended, leaving Maya alone with her thoughts. 4 ships against the might of the Vox Imperium. It wasn't much, but perhaps it would be enough to buy Earth the time it needed. The Vigilant arrived first, a sleek predator of a ship with lines that made the Sentinel look bulky by comparison. Captain Ishida was a tactical prodigy, the youngest captain in Earth's fleet, and she wasted no time integrating her vessel's systems with the Sentinel's. My weapons officer has already incorporated the Thalassian shield frequency data, Ishida reported during their first briefing. Her sharp features and precise movements matched her reputation for efficiency. We should be able to penetrate Vox defenses on the first volley. The Nomad and Defiant arrived within hours of each other. Commander Okonkwo's Nomad was a heavy support vessel, designed for extended operations and equipped with the latest medical facilities. Captain Rodriguez and the Defiant brought much-needed firepower. The ship was essentially a weapons platform with engines attached. Maya gathered them in the Sentinel's conference room, along with Talveth and her own senior officers. The tactical display showed the Vox Scout maintaining its position at the nebula's edge. "Our window is closing," Maya began. "Once that scout reports back, we can expect a full battle group. Our mission is to intercept and neutralize it before it can summon reinforcements." "And if we fail?" Rodriguez asked bluntly. "Then we make them pay so dearly that the next assessment fleet hesitates," Maya replied. "The Vox believe in strength above all else. We show them humanity's strength." Talveth stepped forward, placing a data crystal on the table. "We have provided what intelligence we possess on Vox fleet formations and combat tactics. There is one more thing we can offer." The Thalassian gestured, and a holographic display shifted to show a modified weapon schematic. "This resonance amplifier can be integrated with your existing weapon systems. It creates a cascading failure in Vox shield matrices." Captain Ishida studied the design. "This could give us a critical advantage." "It has limitations," Talveth cautioned. "It requires precise targeting and can only be used once before a Vox vessel adapts. Choose your moment carefully." As the meeting concluded, Talveth drew Maya aside. "There is something you should know, Commander. Something not in our official records." Maya raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening." "The Vox." Talveth hesitated, gill structures fluttering nervously. "They do not merely destroy species they deem unworthy. They harvest genetic material, technology, cultural artifacts. Each conquest adds to their collective." "Why?" Maya asked, unsettled by the revelation. "We believe they seek perfection, a distillation of the galaxy's strengths without its perceived weaknesses." Talveth's eyes darkened to near black. "They see themselves as the gardeners of evolution, pruning what they consider stunted growth." Maya processed this. "You're telling me they're not just conquerors, they're collectors." "Yes, and they will be particularly interested in humanity. Your adaptability, your innovative approach to technology, these are traits they value. They will test you severely before deciding whether to eradicate or incorporate." "Neither option is acceptable," Maya said firmly. Talveth's eyes shifted to a color Maya hadn't seen before, a warm gold that seemed to glow from within. Perhaps that is why the cosmic currents have brought our peoples together at this moment. The Vox have ruled through fear for millennia. They have never faced a species willing to fight for others before itself. The next morning, as final preparations were underway, an urgent alert came from the station's sensor array. The Vox Scout had vanished. Long-range sensors detect multiple spatial distortions approaching the nebula. Lieutenant Decker reported. "They're already here." Maya's task force launched within the hour, leaving Arcturus Station under the protection of its hastily upgraded defense systems and the remaining Thalassian vessels. The 4 human ships moved in tight formation through the swirling colors of the nebula, sensors straining to locate the incoming Vox fleet. They found them at the nebula's outer boundary, 12 Vox vessels, each larger and more heavily armed than those Maya had encountered previously. At their center loomed a massive command ship, its hull bristling with weapon emplacements. "Battle stations," Maya ordered, her voice calm despite the odds they faced. "Remember your training and trust your shipmates. Whatever happens today, we show them humanity doesn't bow to threats." The human ships accelerated toward the Vox formation, weapons charged and shields at maximum. Against the backdrop of the nebula's cosmic beauty, the first battle for Earth's future was about to begin. The proving ground. The distance between the fleets closed with agonizing slowness. On the Sentinel's bridge, Maya studied the Vox formation through narrowed eyes. Their ships maintained perfect spacing, moving as a single organism rather than individual vessels. "They're not engaging," Rivera noted, tension evident in his voice. "They have superior numbers and firepower. Why wait?" Maya understood. "They're studying us." Learning. Every second we don't fight is another data point for them. She turned to communications. All ships execute maneuver Theta 3. The human task force suddenly broke formation, each vessel accelerating on a different vector. It was a standard Earth fleet dispersal pattern, but to the Vox, it would be unfamiliar. The reaction was immediate. The Vox formation shifted, attempting to track all 4 human ships simultaneously. In that moment of adjustment, Maya gave the order. All ships, fire. The void erupted with energy as the human vessels unleashed their opening salvo. Phased particle beams and quantum torpedoes streaked toward the Vox ships, targeting the weak points identified in Thalassian intelligence reports. Several hits connected. 2 smaller Vox vessels shuddered as their shields flared and partially collapsed. But the majority of the human weapons' fire was absorbed or deflected. "They've adapted their shields," Decker reported. Effectiveness down 30%. Before Maya could order evasive action, the Vox responded. Not with the expected barrage of energy weapons, but with something far more insidious. "Multiple projectiles incoming," Decker called out. "Not explosive. There. Commander, they're penetrating our shields." Dozens of small, dart-like objects passed through the Sentinel's energy barriers as if they weren't there. They attached to the hull, their metallic surfaces flowing like liquid. "Hull breach on decks 3 and 4, reported Chief Engineer Okafor. "Those things are burning through our armor plating." On the tactical display, Maya saw the same scenario playing out across her entire task force. The Defiant was taking the worst of it, surrounded by a swarm of the metallic parasites. "Physical countermeasures," Maya ordered. "Deploy maintenance drones to remove those devices." As the Sentinel's automated systems fought to preserve the hull's integrity, the Vox fleet pressed its advantage. Their larger vessels began methodical bombardment, focusing fire on 1 human ship at a time. "The Nomad is taking heavy damage," Rivera reported. "Shields down to 20%. Maya opened a channel. "Commander Okonkwo, fall back to position Alpha. We'll cover you." "Negative," came Okonkwo's steady reply. "Our systems are still operational, and I have an idea about these parasites." On the tactical display, Maya watched as the Nomad suddenly vented plasma from its auxiliary thrusters, directly onto its own hull where the parasites had attached. The superheated gas enveloped the devices, causing them to wither and detach. "It worked," Okonkwo transmitted. "The parasites can't maintain cohesion under direct plasma exposure." Maya immediately relayed the discovery to the other ships. "Reconfigure your shield harmonics to match Nomad's plasma frequency. It might give us temporary protection against further intrusion." The battle evolved rapidly, a deadly dance of adaptation and counter-adaptation. The human ships employed every tactic in their arsenal: feints, coordinated strikes, even using the nebula's dense gas clouds as cover. The Vox responded with mechanical precision, but Maya noted they seemed surprised by the humans' unpredictability. "They expect logic," she realized aloud. "Pattern. Protocol. Let's show them something else." She opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships implement Chaos Protocol." It was a training exercise Maya had developed years ago, but deliberate abandonment of formation and coordinated fire patterns in favor of seemingly random movement and targeting. In truth, it followed mathematical principles based on nonlinear dynamics, but to an outside observer, it appeared completely unpredictable. The human ships broke apart, each executing independent attack runs that seemed to have no relation to the others. The Vox formation momentarily faltered, their perfect synchronization disrupted as they struggled to anticipate the humans' next moves. "It's working," Rivera said, a note of surprise in his voice. "They can't predict our attack vectors." "Not for long," Maya cautioned. "They learn quickly." "Captain Ishida, execute attack pattern Epsilon." The Vigilance suddenly accelerated, driving straight toward the center of the Vox formation. Its advanced propulsion systems gave it maneuverability that outmatched even the Vox vessels. It weaved through enemy fire, launching precision strikes against the command ship's sensor arrays. Simultaneously, the Defiant unleashed a barrage of disruptor torpedoes, creating a chaotic energy field that temporarily blinded the Vox targeting systems. In that moment of confusion, the Sentinel and Nomad concentrated their fire on one of the larger Vox cruisers. The Thalassian resonance amplifier worked exactly as promised. The cruiser,